Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and felt like the world stopped for a moment? As if a single glance held an entire story you didn't know how to explain, only that you felt it. That deep, silent bond. That feeling that somehow, without words, this person was meant for you. And yet, they didn't choose you, not in the same way, not with the same depth. It's one of the most painful forms of confusion, when everything inside you says yes, but everything in them says not. Quite most people dismiss this as bad luck or timing. But what if there's something far deeper at play? A pattern hidden in the psychology of love itself that repeats over and over, without anyone ever noticing. You see, this isn't just about heartbreak. It's about understanding why certain people leave us emotionally shattered, even though they once seemed obsessed with us. It's about those intense beginnings, when the man appears to be completely enchanted, only to grow cold and distant once you finally let him in. If this has happened to you even once, you know the haunting questions it leaves behind. What did I do wrong? Why did he change? Was it all just in my head? The answer lies not in what you did or didn't do, but in a deep psychological mechanism that even most therapists never fully explain. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, uncovered a pattern that might finally make sense of it all. And once you understand this hidden truth, you may realize that many of your past relationships were never truly about you, but about the ghost of someone else you didn't even know existed. In the next chapter, I'll show you exactly what this ghost is, why it's haunting the way men fall in love, and why you need to be aware of it before it happens again. But before we go on, remember this video contains something extremely important at the end, something that could forever change the way you experience love. Stay with me. And if this topic already speaks to you, subscribe to the channel so we can continue creating content like this together. Let me tell you a story, one you may recognize because it might be your own. You meet someone. At first, he's intrigued, then fascinated. And before you know it, he's captivated. He says he's never met anyone like you, that there's something different about you, something he can't explain. You start receiving messages morning and night, small surprises, intense declarations. It feels magical, doesn't it? Like something out of a film. You start to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. But then, something shifts. The fire fades. The attention dies. The man who once seemed hypnotized by you grows distant, distracted, cold, and you're left wondering, what changed? Now pause here. If this feels painfully familiar, share your story in the comments. You're not alone, and your experience might help someone else who's living the exact same pattern. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, take a moment now. It helps us bring more content like this into the world. What you need to understand is that what you experienced wasn't love. Not yet. It was a projection. Carl Jung identified something called the anima, a powerful feminine archetype that lives in every man's unconscious. It's not you he's falling for, it's her, the ideal, the mystery, the fantasy of womanhood that he carries deep inside without even realizing it. And when a woman pulls away, emotionally or physically, she activates that archetype like a mirror. She becomes a screen onto which he casts his dream of the perfect woman. And the less he knows about who you really are, the stronger the fantasy becomes. But here's the cruel twist. Once he has you, once you're no longer a mystery, the projection begins to dissolve. Reality steps in. And the ghost, his anima, fades back into the unconscious, leaving you in its place. That's when the disconnection begins. Not because you changed, but because the illusion ended. In the next chapter, we'll explore why emotional unavailability, even when unintentional, makes someone dangerously irresistible to the male psyche, and how it feeds a subconscious addiction that can lead to years of toxic cycles. Keep watching. The truth gets deeper. There's something strange that happens when someone we care about becomes emotionally distant. It creates a tension, a pull, that we often can't explain. For many men, this tension becomes an obsession. And here's the unsettling part. The more unavailable a woman appears, the more value his unconscious mind assigns to her. Jungian psychology reveals that this isn't just bad timing or emotional immaturity, it's a primal mechanism buried deep within the male psyche. When a woman becomes emotionally scarce, whether intentionally or not, it triggers a survival circuit that equates distance with importance. She becomes the one that got away, the treasure, the challenge, the mystery that must be unlocked. And his desire, once manageable, now spirals into obsession. This is why so many women find themselves in a painful paradox. The more available, loving, and emotionally open they are, the less they're pursued. Meanwhile, those who are distant, sometimes even uninterested, become magnetic, almost hypnotic. Have you ever noticed how a man who seemed indifferent suddenly began chasing after you when you pulled back even slightly? It's not coincidence. It's scarcity at work. But here's the trap. Once that emotional gap is closed, once the pursuit ends and emotional intimacy becomes possible, the chemistry shifts. The high begins to wear off. What once felt like a desperate need to be close turns into boredom or even irritation. And the woman who never stopped being herself is left wondering what she did wrong. This is not your fault. It's a hidden program, a psychological trick played by his own unconscious. He isn't consciously trying to hurt you. He simply doesn't realize he's chasing an illusion created by the scarcity of emotional contact. The good news? Once you understand this mechanism, you can stop blaming yourself. You can begin to recognize the difference between genuine interest and an obsession built on fantasy. And in the next chapter, we'll dive even deeper into the ancient archetype that fuels this very pattern, a mythological force in the male psyche that turns emotionally distant women into goddesses in his eyes. But as you'll see, goddesses aren't meant to be human, and that's where the tragedy begins. In every man's unconscious there lives a story, not one he was told, but one he inherited. Carl Jung called these collective stories archetypes, ancient universal patterns that shape human behavior, and one of the most powerful is the unattainable maiden. She is the distant figure, the mysterious woman who holds the key to something sacred. And when a man encounters a woman who pulls away, who remains just out of reach, this archetype awakens inside him. He no longer sees the real woman before him. Instead, he sees a symbolic figure, someone who promises transformation, wholeness, redemption, not through love as it truly is, but through fantasy. This explains why so many men claim to feel complete when they meet a woman who's emotionally unavailable. Not because of who she is, but because of what she represents to his unconscious mind. But there's more. Beneath this projection lies something darker, the shadow. This is the part of the psyche that holds everything a person rejects or denies about themselves, their fears, wounds, shame. And when a man is drawn to a woman who is elusive or emotionally cold, he may unconsciously be trying to face this shadow. Why? Because the rejection confirms something he secretly believes about himself, that he is unworthy, not enough, destined to be abandoned. And so, in a twisted way, he seeks out the very dynamic that reopens the old wound, hoping, without knowing, that this time it might finally heal, but it never does. Because you can't heal a wound by finding someone to confirm it. This is why relationships based on this archetype feel so intense and so doomed. The man isn't in love with the woman. He's in love with his projection of transformation. And she, often unknowingly, becomes a mirror for his internal war. In the next chapter, we'll uncover the root of this war, a psychological wound formed in childhood that most men carry into adulthood, and how your emotional distance can unknowingly trigger it, creating a cycle of obsession that feels like love, but is really something far more dangerous. Don't look away now. The truth you're about to hear may change the way you see every past relationship. There's a wound that most men carry, a wound so old, so hidden that even they don't know it's there. Jung understood it as part of the individuation process, but modern psychology calls it something simpler, the maternal wound. It begins in childhood. At the moment a boy starts to separate emotionally from his mother. This is a natural part of growing up, but it never happens without leaving a mark. Somewhere in that first emotional rupture, the seed of abandonment is planted. later. In life, when a man meets a woman who feels emotionally distant, whether by choice or circumstance, something ancient awakens in him. She unknowingly mirrors that first loss, and the feelings he buried long ago now surface as powerful desire, not for her as a person, but for the healing of something he can't name. That's why, when you pull away, he doesn't simply miss you, he aches for you. He needs you. His unconscious mind believes that if he can just win your affection, this time the story will end differently. That this time, he won't be left behind. But here's the devastating paradox. The moment you become fully present, the illusion breaks. You are no longer the mirror of his wound, you're real, human, and in that reality the emotional tension that fed his obsession disappears. Suddenly, without warning, his interest fades. He may feel repelled, confused, or even angry, and you are left once again in the wreckage, wondering what went wrong. This cycle creates emotional addiction, powered not by love, but by the chemicals, released during emotional pursuit and rejection. It's a loop as powerful as any drug, and many people live trapped in it for years, calling it romance. And yet, there is a way out. In the final chapter, we'll reveal how to break this cycle, not by changing him, but by transforming yourself. By withdrawing projections and integrating your own inner masculine, you can stop being a screen for someone else's healing and start attracting love that sees you for who you truly are. Stay with me now. The final truth is the most liberating. 1. Here's the truth. Most relationship advice will never dare to say because it isn't easy and it doesn't promise quick results. The only real way to break free from these painful, obsessive cycles is through integration. Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming whole by bringing together the masculine and feminine forces within yourself. You see, just as men project their anima onto women, women often project their animus, their inner masculine, onto the men they feel drawn to. That feeling of "he completes me" or "I've never felt this kind of pull before" is often not love, it's recognition. But not of him, of yourself, of a hidden part of your psyche that you've disowned and are now seeing through him. And when you understand this, something extraordinary happens. You stop looking for someone to fix you, rescue you, or prove your worth. You stop being a mirror for someone else's unresolved wounds. You begin to see people, not projections, not fantasies, but real, flawed, beautiful humans. And they, in turn, begin to see you. This is the conjunctio, the sacred psychological union Jung spoke of. It's not the fantasy of perfect romance. It's the deep peace that comes when you no longer need love to feel whole. When love becomes a choice, not a cure. From that place of inner wholeness, you attract a different kind of connection. Not one built on emotional highs and crashing lows, but one built on truth, stability, recognition. So what will you do with this knowledge? You now understand what most will never even question. You've seen how deep the roots of obsession, rejection, and abandonment truly go. But awareness alone isn't enough. You have to choose to step off the merry-go-round of projection. You have to choose to integrate what you once chased in others, within yourself. If this journey has stirred something in you, share it in the comments below. Your voice might be the one someone else needed to hear. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Now, because what comes next will uncover the most dangerous male archetype that women unconsciously chase. It may be the final key to rewriting your entire love story. Stay with us. The liberation is just beginning. Take a deep breath. What you've just discovered isn't light material. It's the kind of knowledge that rewrites the foundation of how you see love, relationships, and even yourself. Most people will never hear these truths, not because they're hidden, but because they require the courage to look inward, to admit that sometimes the pain we feel in love isn't caused by others, but by the illusions we ourselves carry. Carl Jung believed that bringing the unconscious into consciousness is the most powerful act of healing a person can undertake. And today you've done exactly that. You've walked through the hidden corridors of the male psyche, seen how projection creates obsession, how childhood wounds recreate cycles of rejection, and how women, often unknowingly, become mirrors for someone else's broken story. But now comes the most important moment of all, the decision. You can return to the old patterns. You can forget what you've heard, pretend it's just theory, and hope that next time it will be different. Orison, you can step into a new way of relating, a way where love is no longer about completing someone else's unconscious fantasy, but about two whole people recognizing each other clearly, without illusion. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games or pulling away to increase desire. It's about becoming so whole within yourself that you're no longer seduced by projections, neither theirs nor your own. That's the real freedom Jung pointed to, the kind of freedom that rewrites your destiny, not just romantically, but emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. So now I ask you, how many of your past relationships were built on projection rather than real intimacy? What signs do you recognize now that you were once trapped in someone else's unconscious drama? Share it below. Not just to be heard, but to become part of a community of women waking up to the deeper truth. And if this journey changed something in you, don't stop here. Subscribe now and join us in the next episode, where we'll expose the hidden male archetype that silently sabotages women's hearts again and again. The truth isn't just a light, it's a path, and you've just taken your first step.